The Hero of Hyrule, the link from the first ever Zelda game. You'd think there wouldn't be a lot here, but you'd be surprised. Referencing his two games, Zelda 1, also known as Zelda the Hyrule Fantasy, and Zelda 2, Adventure of Link, this will be our 5th entry into our adventure through the Zelda timeline. There's also a manga, but it's not officially translated to English, and the only way to read it is kind of finicky, so I highly doubt JoJo added anything from that, but if I find anything, I'll tell you guys. Now, before we start talking about the game, let's reiterate what we're doing here. We will be going over how JoJo had characterized Hyrule in their comic, Linked Universe, a comic series that follows 9 links answering the question, what would happen if all the links had to adventure together? I'll be going over every link in the comic, and you can catch episode 0 where I explain what we are doing here in a greater detail below. I'll also add the next episode when I get done with that below as well. Starting out with the first ever Zelda game, and yes, it does actually have a plot. In the Age of Chaos, the small kingdom of Hyrule held the Triforce of Power and the Triforce of Wisdom. One day, the Prince of Darkness, Ganon, appeared and stole the Triforce of Power. Zelda, not wanting him to obtain the Triforce of Wisdom, split it into 8 parts and scattered them across the land. Then sent Impa to search for anyone, with enough courage to defeat Ganon. When Ganon heard of this, of what Zelda did, he kidnapped her. And while Impa tried to flee, being hunted by Ganon's minions, she was saved by a boy, a traveler named Link. Impa told Link what had happened, and he took it upon himself to save Hyrule and Zelda by killing Ganon. He hunted down the 8 pieces of the Triforce of Wisdom, then defeated Ganon, and saved Zelda and Hyrule, and being given the title, the Hero of Hyrule. Zelda 2, Adventure of Link, also has a pretty solid plot as well, that being, while helping rebuild the Kingdom of Hyrule, on Link's 16th birthday a mark appeared on his hand, the Triforce. Impa told him about the story of the prince who inherited the Triforce, but not the Triforce of Courage. So he tried to force his sister Zelda to tell him where it was. She refused, and he got a dark wizard to curse her with eternal sleep. With regret, the prince declared every princess of Hyrule will be named Zelda, to never forget this tragedy. Then said that the one who can awaken her is the one who will have the mark of the Triforce on their hand. So Link is tasked to find the Triforce of Courage, and by doing so, placing 6 crystals into 6 different palaces. But be warned, Ganon's minions didn't disappear after Ganon was killed, and they believe by sacrificing Link and sprinkling his blood onto Ganon's ashes will revive the Prince of Darkness. So, Link will have to be careful on his travels. In the end, he is able to find the Triforce of Courage, and even defeat a shadow version of himself to prove his worth. Link awakens the sleeping Princess Zelda, hence she declares him a true hero, marking the end of the second game. From here on out, we will be calling Link by his hero title, the Hero of Hyrule. Also, I seem to use his nickname Ruli a lot, so if you hear that, same guy. Hyrule's design in-game is very simple: a green tunic, a brown long-sleeve shirt, brown boots, and a downfall green hat with a yellow stripe. He also gets a blue tunic in Zelda 1 as well as a red tunic. In Zelda 2, he only has his green tunic. However, he has a spell that will give him his red tunic as well as better defense. In Linked Universe, Hyrule doesn't have his hat anymore, but he does have his classic green tunic and a brown undershirt. His gloves aren't really gloves, they are attached to a crop top he wears under his layers. He also has obtained pants and very nice boots. Oh, and JoJo has drawn Hyrule in his red tunic. He looks great. Hyrule's fighting style in-game is mainly consistent of stabs. He can also shoot sword beams out of his sword immediately as long as he's at full health, which we see a few times in the comic. We also see the downward strike attack as well as an upward strike. Another thing we see Hyrule use is his boomerang, as well as his bow. Something interesting to note is how aggressive Hyrule fights. He always runs straight in, he slashes of course, but most of his final blows have been stabs. He uses his equipment while at a distance, but when up close he jumps right into the fold, sword in hand. But in doing so, he gets saved quite often. Now, Ruli fights aggressively isn't always a bad thing. He does listen to the others when need be, showing that he trusts his companions. Now, the last thing about Hyrule's fighting style is how he uses magic in battle. In the chapter Magic Sword, we see Hyrule casting spells in battle. First is the Thunder Spell or the Spell, for more as a joke, snapping his fingers, acting cocky. Then later we see him use the fire spell, setting his sword on fire, burning the enemies when hitting them. Another thing to note about using magic in battle is that Hyrule tends to only use it when there's less people around. It could come from how destructive it is. As an example, the thunder spell wipes out everything on the screen, and that could really hurt the rest of the chain if he were to use it, meaning Hyrule is considerate of his surroundings and makes sure the rest of the chain is alright. Considering Hyrule is the most magically inclined character, and even being the party's healer, this part's gonna be fun. Hyrule's spells consists of Shield, Jump, Life, Fairy, Fire, Reflect, Spell, and Thunder, as well as the Wand from the first game. We haven't seen him use all of his spells yet, but let's talk about how they could affect him, that, and the Triforce itself. Looking at Hyrule, it doesn't look like any of his spells could have had an effect on him, but thinking about it, let's talk about that crop top. The sleeves go all the way down to his gloves, covering his arms and his hands. That could show the Triforce. Then, we also see that shirt part covering what could be any type of design left behind by a spell that could change his body physically. Comparing Hyrule to the rest of the chain, 4 is short because of the shrinking magic, Twilight has markings on his face from transforming into a wolf, Legend's hair is pink from transforming into a rabbit, and Time has markings on his face and is taller than the others because of the Fierce Deity's mask. As well as his age is a mystery from all that time traveling, Hyrule being the last one in the chain that has magic that has physically altered how he looks. It would be more likely he is hiding the markings from the fairy spell or the Triforce than not. Or it could be something related to something later on in this that I will be mentioning, the Blood Curse. But we don't know yet. Yay! Personality. The Hero of Hyrule is someone who's grown up in the Age of Chaos, but chooses to look to the light. He doesn't think of himself as someone special or better than anyone else. He's humble to the point of looking down on himself, even though he is a hero. But at times he laughs and jokes, coming across as cocky, confident when he knows what he's doing, but humble and unsure when talking about his experiences compared to the other great heroes he's with. Let's get into this. Starting out, let's talk about how Hyrule sees his equipment, and how it isn't stated very often, but we do see him using many of his items from his adventures, including that boomerang, which was from his first adventure, meaning he's been using that thing since he was 10. But let's start off with the Master Sword. Now, Hyrule never got the Master Sword during his adventures, so during the events of the comic, Sky actually lets him hold her, and he is at a loss for words. The sword Hyrule does actually use from his adventure is the Magic Sword, which is a silver blade. He also has a large shield, both designed off of the equipment from Zelda 1's cover art. Now, things Hyrule uses are along the lines of his boomerang, as well as the fact that we do see him use his bow along with his hammer. When he uses these items, he is helping the others with support, but most of the time we do see him just running straight in. Hyrule tends to be the one to attack first, and even takes down a few of the larger monsters by himself, but he does tend to need help, and the one to do said help is Wild. Something I want to point out for later is in Sunset Part 14, we see Hyrule asleep with a bunch of half-drunk bottles of different potions on the table in front of him. This being said, it means he saves his potions. He only drinks what he needs, and doesn't waste a single drop, because he might need that last drop later. This could tie into his travels and how dangerous his era is. Everything matters. The Hero of Hyrule is unsure. He knows he is into night, and he hasn't gone through the same kind of adventure as the others. He was just a 10-year-old who was asked to save the princess in danger, and he did. On that note, I need to point out that he was physically the youngest when he fought Ganon. The one who fought him at the youngest was Time, at 9, but he was physically 16. Hyrule was just a little kid, as well as not holding the Triforce of Courage. He had to find the Triforce of Wisdom. Then, after defeating Ganon, 6 years passed, and he went and hunted down the Triforce of Courage, having to prove his worth via fighting a dark reflection of himself, even obtaining a scar from it. Hyrule clearly looks up to the others, thinking that's what he could become, not realizing he himself is already one of them. But at that same exact time, Hyrule is cocky and confident in what he does. He knows what he can do, and he stays calm while doing so. Like when Hyrule and warriors ends up in the enemy camp, and the two of them take down the entire camp by themselves. Hyrule and Wars even making jokes before the fight. Then after, when telling the rest of the chain, they made even more jokes about it. Looking at how the group operates, Hyrule seems to be down to do anything. Go meet with a mysterious person? Sure. Help make a sword at camp? Why not? Gonna go caving without a map? Of course! We know you've been almost constantly healing for the past who knows how long, but do you want to go help finish that sword? Let me grab my hammer! Hyrule is always willing to help those around him, and is willing to put himself out there. The most prominent is in Sunset, Part 4. We see the mental debate on his face if he should speak up or not, unsure if he could help. But he does. He tells the chain about the life spell, and with Four's help, he is able to get to Twilight to start trying to help being healing him. Before we start talking about Hyrule's determination, let's shelf the events with Twilight and finish this point. Hyrule is kind. He's willing to help those around him in whatever they need, and doesn't ask questions. And another thing to note is that Hyrule doesn't join in with the teasing. He doesn't make fun of the others, and he never talks down to them. He tries his best to help, and even when that help is making dinner with Din knows how old that meat is, he's always willing to put himself out there for the others. Hyrule, that is called food poisoning, not putting hair on your chest. Now, Sunset. From up to this point in the comic, Hyrule has been in the back, enjoying the ride and doing his best to help the rest of the chain, never taking center stage unless by accident. He's shown that he is a responsible and kind lad, and has always done his best around the others. But when Twilight gets hurt, he steps up. Hyrule is unsure if he can do anything, but he tries anyways. When he learned that the life spell did nothing, he didn't care. He was going to heal Twilight if he liked it or not. I don't know the meaning of giving up, and you can't either. He doesn't know if he can make a difference even after getting the support from the others as well as the potions from Wild. Hyrule is still healing, staying positive and hopeful. When Twilight is able to be healed, he's excited. And later when Twilight thanks him, Hyrule brushes it off, saying it's just what friends do, just happy to see his friend is okay. He's humble and cares about the others around him, putting himself out there just to try and help them the best he can. Alright, let's get into how Ruli acts around the rest of the chain. Starting with Sky. Sky and Ruli don't really talk that often. They don't go out of their way to chat with each other, but they do end up in the same team quite often. He does show interest in Sky's equipment though, namely the Master Sword and his sailcloth, as well as Sky commenting on Hyrule's fighting style to be amazing. Before Hyrule goes out of his way to help him, namely the sword, but they don't really have many meaningful conversations. But then again, 4 does warn everyone about Hyrule's cooking. Ruli to Time is just one of the other heroes at the start, but as time goes on and how Ruli came in and saved Twilight, the two working very closely together, he's warmed up to the kid. With Legend, we see that the two were the first ones to meet, which puts them already at being the closest. They can be seen fighting next to each other quite often, as well as walking next to one another. Later, when Wind, Wars, and Hyrule come back from helping 4 forge the new sword for Wild, Hyrule goes over to Legend first, bumping into him on purpose while talking to Wild about going to see 4. The two seem to be the closest. At the same time, Twilight. At the beginning, Hyrule and Twilight didn't really interact very much, but after Hyrule healed him, Twilight of course is grateful to Hyrule, who responds with the very humble, "I just did what friends would do." He's just happy to see Twilight is okay. Then there's Wind. Wind has encouraged Hyrule multiple times throughout the comic, but they don't really talk too often. Then we have Warriors. Warriors has been friendly towards Hyrule since the beginning. Even the two going out to the tavern together and making jokes, to going with him to meet with Linkle, the two tend to team up quite often, and Warriors doesn't care if Hyrule isn't a knight. This case of Hyrule looks up to him is very prominent with these two. He thinks of what he could become if he was more like Warriors, and thinks highly of him. Even when the two of them end up fighting the monster camp together, they joke afterwards. Lastly, we have Wild. The two of them like to go off and explore. They are the most similar in the way of gremlin. Wild is the cook, but when he's injured, Hyrule takes over, as well as the fact that literally every time Hyrule was about to get hit or attacked, Wild was there, attacking the enemy and saving Hyrule, and Hyrule appreciates the saves. He looks up to everyone in the chain because he thinks of what great heroes they all are, and that he could one day match them. And again, he doesn't realize he already is there, and they all look up to him as well. Also, everyone's opinions of Hyrule skyrockets after healing Twilight. Hyrule is still humble though, and he doesn't let this go to his head, but he does seem to be accepting himself little by little throughout the comic. Secrets. Now, really secrets are along the lines of, oh god, oh no, oh crap. So let's start off with the little more chill ones, then let's go cry in the corner with the rest. first ones that I'm actually going to say are ones that I'm not really sure are really secrets, but they're just things that really hasn't told the others yet. Like the fact that he has 2 Zeldas. It's probably something that will come up later on, but the fact that he has 2 of them is unknown to the others. Another one I'm not really sure is actually a secret or not is something that I brought up during Legends video. There's an untranslated manga of the series where the Hero of Hyrule is related to Zelda, but again, I don't really know if JoJo is going with that canon or not. The last of the unknown ones is the fact that all the other links who can transform into animals or other creatures and stuff consider those as secrets, so the fact that really can turn into a fairy could be in fact a secret in and of itself. Like I said, magic effects, his crop top could be covering up the markings left behind, but we don't know yet. Also, side note, we can see a little bit of a design popping out from the collar of the crop top, so I'm not going off of nothing here. Now, for the actual secrets. I went back and forth on which of these was more of an oh no, so let's start with this one and then we'll go on to the second one. This first one is going to be the Triforce. The Hero of Hyrule has the entire Triforce on him at all times. In his time, it's safer to be physically on him than anywhere else, so he just kind of has it. Anyways, lastly is the Blood Curse. In the Age of Chaos, after a 10-year-old Link killed the Prince of Darkness, Ganon's minions believed that they could bring their prince back by sacrificing the Hero of Hyrule and sprinkling his blood on his ashes. This is why they are after Link in Zelda 2. They want to kill him and use his blood to bring Ganon back. If the chain found out, oh no, I don't know what's gonna happen there. I want to talk about the blood here, because I noticed something and I don't really know where else to put this. So, I'm gonna put this here. The tainted blood these corrupted monsters have. We see it twice. First on a cloth and the second on an arrow. Both times we see this and also see the reaction image from Hyrule. I just find it interesting that the one with the blood curse keeps being the one shown with the tainted blood. Food for thought. Now, there are 3 characters that have death flags in their writing. I didn't think really here was one of them until I started making this video and I started noticing the signs. So he wasn't the one I thought was gonna be here, but my theory still holds up even if he is the one to die. Now, why is really a part of the 3 I think would die? Well, he thinks of himself as less than, and he just wants to help the others the best he can. I've seen people nickname Ruli as Hope because of the time he comes from, as well as he had already been the hope for Twilight's survival. He would do anything for the others. There's also an event that would only happen if he dies, the Blood Curse. Hyrule has a Chekhov's gun in his hand, and I don't know if JoJo will pull that trigger. And for those who don't know what a Chekhov's gun is, it's basically every element in a story has a reason. In Linked Universe, one of those Chekhov's guns put in by JoJo was the somebody will die that time saw. Now, the Legend of Zelda series has a lot of these guns. And again, this is JoJo's story, and it's up to her on what will make it through to the comic. But everything that isn't confirmed yet is up in the air if JoJo wants to add it or not. This section at the moment is just me pointing out that Ruli might be holding one of those Chekhov's guns. Also, Ruli has one of his dolls still, probably, so he'll be fine. Hyrule is an unsure person. He saved 2 Zeldas, but standing next to these great heroes who come from legends, being told to people for thousands of years after saving their own Hyrules, well, Ruli doesn't think he could stand with the greats. But they don't care. They know he is one of them, and they encourage him when they can. But at the same exact time, Hyrule is very confident in himself. If he knows he can do it, he will. He can take down enemies the others are struggling with, or cast spells like the fire spell, or just throwing the sword beams. And lastly, his life spell. He was unsure, but after finding out that the spell might have a sliver of hope to help Twilight, he dropped that unsure nature and took on the determination only the Hero of Hyrule could exude in the Age of Chaos. If all hope seems lost, Hyrule shines the most. He was his people's hope to see the better future from their kingdom, and he got that title for a reason. He doesn't give up, and he will try almost everything to save anyone, and because of that determination, he succeeded, as well as save Twilight. In the end, the Hero of Hyrule is one that is unsure about himself as a hero, but is confident in his abilities to help those around him. He is hesitant to put himself out there, but when he does, he gives everything he has. And when things look bleak, he steps in, showing that hope he carried in his era, and is determined to help and save anyone who needs it. That determination is one that killed the Prince of Darkness, Ganon, as a 10-year-old child, with only the Triforce of Wisdom, showing a strength that not many others have.
thank you all for watching. This video was so much kinder to me than Legends, and it felt like a break from the more intense characters. Hyrule is my favorite link in the chain, and I play way too much Zelda 1 for my own good. And again, thank you to JoJo for making this amazing comic. I've been having a lot of fun talking about the characters, and again, you've done an amazing job on them. So everyone go check out JoJo in the description below. Next up for episode 6 will be the Hero of Twilight, so I hope to see you all there for Twilight's video. Also, I want to mention here that I stream every day, so if you want to chat and chill, I have links in the description below as well. I'll probably be live later today, so if you want to chat about Link to Universe, hop on over there. I hope you all enjoyed this video, and thanks again for watching. And until next time, bye! I have 2 things for our little secret ending bit. First things first, after Zelda 1 came out, some magazines thought Link was a girl with pink hair, so here's pink-haired girl Link. And second is the one panel where Hyrule is crouching. It's just like the game. It's the little details that made me want to make these videos. Anyways, have a good one, and that's all for the secret. Bye-bye!